Predictions are a funny business. There's no doubt about it. More often than not, though, the early signs can be read when a fighter is making their original climb into title contention. And with these 6 fighters, there is every chance that we are looking at the future of the sport. With that being said, here are the mixed martial artists who could well stand with a chance to define the year 2020 if they can take the correct steps during the vital stages in their upward trajectory. Edmen Shahbazyan. There's a very real possibility that this young man is the finest up-and-coming middleweight on the planet. One who could well force his name into title contention by the time the year 2020 is through. Shahbazyan recently capped off his 21st year with a stunning head kick KO of proven middleweight veteran Brad Tavares at UFC 244. A win that saw him clinch a spot in the divisional top 10. Now 22, maturity inside the octagon has seemingly come with ease for the California native. And in the time since his UFC debut, he has managed to rack up a 4-0 record in the promotion. With a streak of 3 first-round finishes now under his belt, and a trio of major events, UFC 235, UFC 239, and UFC 244, the only question left is whether Dana and company will look to fast-track this potentially elite talent to the big time. Cory Sandhagen. Innovation can be something that sets a prospect apart from his peers, and in the case of Cory Sandhagen, it's been clear for some time that the bantamweight division has something special on its hands with this guy. Blessed both with an indomitable will to win and a fresh and inventive way of approaching his training, Elevation Fight Team's Sandhagen brings a style to the octagon that is reminiscent of both TJ Dillashaw and Dominic Cruz, while managing to stay completely unique. Though ranked as the number 3 bantamweight in the world, I'd wager that there are more than a few MMA fans that have never watched him fight up until this point. And although he is yet to truly break into mainstream attention, with a big matchup looming in early 2020, expect some immediate heat behind this 27-year-old if all goes his way the next time he makes that walk. Islam Makhachev. There's a reason why more than a few people already consider the 155-pound contender Makhachev to be one of the finest fighters on the planet. Seen by many as the natural successor to Khabib Nurmagomedov's reign at the top of the lightweight division, he too brings a watertight skill set to the octagon. One built on more of an equally balanced foundation than the grappling-heavy approach of his teammate. Finding opponents who will sign to fight this Dagestan technician has been the main thing keeping him from a spot in the divisional top 10, slowing his progress in a manner that is still, quite frankly, shocking when you consider his unquestionable talents. This does, of course, serve the dual purpose of allowing the champ Nurmagomedov's time in the sport to naturally wind down. But at this stage, with Islam reaching his prime, one would have to assume that a push toward lightweight gold is on the cards for 2020. Sean O'Malley. Though no doubt stunted in his rise by a string of hugely unfortunate and downright odd occurrences, Sean O'Malley's stock hasn't really taken too much of a hit since the last time we saw him in action. A horrific injury to his foot did of course keep Sugar Sean out of training for a while last year, but it is at least encouraging to note that he had been training for fights at both UFC 229 and UFC 239 before issues with USADA forced him out. Versatile and deadly with his strikes in equal measure, O'Malley at 25 is still very much a work in progress, but based on early signs, he possesses all the physical and mental attributes necessary to be a very dangerous fighter at 135 pounds. With O'Malley finally returning to competition at UFC 247 in February, and his fanbase seemingly growing by the month, it will be very interesting to see how he's received once he inevitably makes the walk to the octagon once again. Maycee Barber. Impressive isn't claiming that you'll beat out the legendary John Jones and becoming the youngest champion in UFC history. What's impressive about Maycee Barber is that she fights like a woman who is possessed by that goal and views it as a complete and unquestionable certainty for her future. And of course, it would all be for nothing if her results didn't back up the sheer breadth of her ambition. As one of the more dangerous finishers currently inhabiting the lower weight classes, Maycee has seen just one of her 8 pro fights go the distance, and with her unbeaten record still intact, she has catapulted herself into the 125-pound top 10 with 3 straight TKOs. The UFC seemed to be aware that the flyweight division is calling out for a star to challenge the seemingly unbeatable Valentina Shevchenko. With this in mind, it will be interesting to see how the promotion handles her rise, and how that ties into her plan to achieve UFC gold before she reaches 23. McKee. The world's most phenomenal young talent may well not even be inside the UFC if the accomplishments of this 24-year-old are anything to go by. McKee is slowly establishing himself as Bellator's premier prospect, and even now, at this early stage in his career, he finds himself as the proud owner of the promotion's record for the most consecutive victories earned, with 15 straight wins. He's a striker, a grappler, a technician, and a finisher in equal measure, and when you consider that his athletic prime is still a ways off, there's no question that Scott Coker and company have a real star on their hands. And while his progress has been carefully monitored by the Bellator brass up until this point, he has been making increasingly challenging steps upward, and with his spot in the ongoing promotional featherweight Grand Prix, 2020 will likely stand as the year we learn a lot more about AJ McKee.